Hey guys, today's virtual assignment should be pretty easy and short. We've been working on adding and subtracting integers and the rules that go with that. So today we're going to start looking at what our multiplication and division rules will look like, which you're really somewhat already using those with the sock trick that we have discussed. So you should catch on to this pretty quick. So today's objective is that you will be able to determine if the quotient, okay, remember that quotient is your answer to division, or product, which is your answer to multiplication, of integers is positive or negative using the rules for multiplying and dividing integers. Okay, so our first problem is -3 divided by -1. Okay, so you guys remember us talking about our sock trick with adding and subtracting, where if we had two symbols beside of each other, then we had to do the sock trick. Well, we get to use the sock trick this time as well, but they don't have to be beside of each other like they did when we were adding and subtracting. So for multiplying and dividing, you just look at the two numbers. So -3 and -1. We're using our sock trick again. So we have a negative and a negative. Okay, are those matching signs? Yes, they are. Then your answer will be positive. So a negative multiplied or divided by a negative will give you a positive. Okay, so in the second one, a +2 multiplied by a -3, a positive multiplied by a -2 and -3, +2 and -3, are those matching signs? They're not, so it's going to be negative. Okay, in the next one we've got 11 and -4. Okay, so do those have matching signs? No, they don't, so it is negative. Okay, in the last one we've got a positive divided by a positive. So again, are those matching signs since they're both positives? They do have matching signs, so it is a positive answer. Okay, pause your video and answer these 4 questions before you watch me solve them. Okay, we have a -3 and a +3. So do they have the same sign or different signs? They have different signs. So that means they're not a matching pair, which means their answer will be negative. In the second one, we've got a negative divided by a positive. So a negative and a positive give us a negative. In the third one, we've got a negative multiplied by a positive, which gives us a negative. So remember, those are not matching signs, so it gives us a negative. Okay, and then in the last one, we've got a negative multiplied by a negative. So those are matching signs. So since they're matching signs, we will have a positive product. Okay, go ahead and pause your video. This was very similar to the ones where we were finding 0 when we were doing absolute value. So which story would you use the quotient -8 divided by -4? So go ahead and pause your video. You're going to select one of those stories at the bottom, so it's not both of them. And the two stories are very similar. Okay, it says Joey and his friends made up a card game. Every person gets a random set of cards. Then they earn points for any pairs they have and lose points for any triples. After playing 4 rounds, Joey has -8 points. On average, how many points did he get in each round? Okay, so the important part here is that after playing 4 rounds, he has -8 points, and we're wanting to know how many points he got in each round. Okay, in the second story, it says that Joey and his friends made up a card game. Every person gets a random set of cards. Then they earn points for any pairs they have and lose points for any triples. After playing 8 rounds, Joey has -4 points. So how many points did he get in each round? Okay, so again, we're looking for what will support negative 8 divided by 4. Okay, so you're really looking, the 8, granted, is negative in both of them. Negative 8 here. And then after playing 8 rounds, that's just a positive 8 there. Okay, and then after playing 4 rounds, that's a positive 4. This one is a negative 4. So you need to ask yourself which one supports negative 8 and positive 4. And it would be the first one. Pause your video and try example 10. In which story could you use the quotient negative 50 divided by 6 to answer the question? It says Marshall is learning to fly a drone. His remote control displays the drone's altitude in meters. As the drone takes off, its altitude increases to 50 meters. Suddenly, Marshall loses control of the drone. It drops to an altitude of 6 meters before he regains control. How much did the drone's altitude decrease? Okay, so we see that as the drone takes off, the altitude increases to 50 meters. He loses control and it drops to an altitude of 6 meters before he regains control. And we're wanting to know how much the drone's altitude decreased. Okay, in the second scenario, it says Marshall's learning to fly a drone. His remote control displays the drone's altitude in meters. As he brings the drone in for a landing, it drops the final 50 meters to the ground in 6 seconds. So on average, how much does the drone's altitude change each second? Okay, so again, we're looking for negative 50 divided by 6. Okay, the first thing you should notice is this increases to 50 meters. We cannot represent increasing 50 meters with a negative 50. However, dropping 50 meters we can. And then we were dividing that by 6 seconds, which is positive, whereas in the first scenario, it was dropping to an altitude of 6, so that would have been a negative 6 as well. So you should have got the second one for this one. Pause your video and try example 11. In which story could you use the quotient 36 divided by 24 to answer the question? So we're looking for that 36 divided by 24. It says Sandra is making chocolate chip cookies. She gets 36 small cookies out of a 24-ounce container of cookie dough. If each cookie is the same size, about how much cookie dough does she use for each one? The second one says Sandra is making chocolate chip cookies and she gets 24 large cookies out of a 36-ounce container of cookie dough. And then, of course, we're asking ourselves the same question in both stories, which is how much cookie dough does she use for each one? Okay, so the bottom one you would be doing 24 divided by 36, whereas in the top one you would be doing 36 divided by 24 because you're looking for how much cookie dough is she using for each one, so for each cookie. So for this one you should have got the first one. Okay, this exit slip is just going to challenge you a little bit. Obviously it's not something we've went over yet, but we have discussed how to figure out if our integers are positive or negative in our quotients and products. So go ahead and see if you can actually tell me what the answer is in integer form. So I'm looking for the number that goes with what we've been doing. This is something we'll be covering next week, but let's see how much you know right now. Okay, so we're doing negative 3 multiplied by negative 2. So a negative multiplied by a negative would give us a positive answer, And 3 times 2 is 6, so you should get positive 6. Okay, in the second one, we're doing positive 63 divided by negative 9. So a positive and a negative is going to give us a negative answer. And 63 divided by 9 is 7, so you should get negative 7. Again, don't worry if you didn't get those, because that is what we're going to work on next week. Have a great weekend, guys.